Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the HamCorp training manual. In this episode, we enter LV, making the first LV parts and machines, mechanical sieves, and finally, an abomination of Create and Gregtech, my rice-based diesel setup. Hello there. I have received many comments on the last few videos, and I have read every single one. A lot of you guys want me to do Tom's Simple Storage, and I will. I want to make a bit of a building first, so I'll try to do that later this episode, hopefully. But I do want to set that up. I don't think I'm going to be using it for very long because I'm not that far from AE2, but I do want to see what the big deal is about. Another thing that has been very commonly suggested is for me to automate these sieves with a deployer. That is a very good idea, and I'm going to do that right now. That said, this is also going to be pretty short-lived because I get access to the mechanical sieve basically now, later this episode most likely. And that seems a lot more straightforward to automate the inputs and outputs of. But I do want to try out the tech that you guys suggest, so let's do it. There were also a lot of other comments about other stuff, but it's either stuff that I ended up doing myself anyway, or stuff that's not relevant for a little bit. So I'll come back to those later on. Let's try this goofy little abomination out. Well, it works. It doesn't seem to reach all the way, so that's not ideal. It also seems to only apply one right click because they're all synchronized. Not sure how to desync them. Maybe if I just break this and then place it again, that desyncs it. Yeah, that works. Cool. Still doesn't reach all the way. But hey, this is passive. Now I just need to figure out how to actually put stuff into the sieves. But I don't know if that's really worth my time because I'm pretty close to the mechanical sieve. Anyway, here it is. This is me, CEO, taking the employees' feedback, doing it poorly, and then saying I have a better plan. There you go. Now, between episodes, I gathered up some stuff, and that stuff allows me to take down this kiln. So I'm going to do exactly that. Now, I am aware that upgrading this kiln to a steam kiln is still not going to be as good for making wrought iron as other methods. But I like multi-blocks, and I like to place block. I got my steam kiln, and surprise, I have a steam ore factory too. Now I'm trying to supply the steam using Create, and I think this is a bad idea because the transfer rate is really slow. It's terrible. Probably something better I can use, but I need to do a bit of investigation. Though to be fair, I am only using water wheels to power this. I should probably be using my steam engine to do so. That would probably be much quicker, but that is a problem for later. For now, I want to get into LV, so I'm going to make some circuits, and I'm going to make an LV converter for the quest. I don't know if I'm going to be using RF generation. I know it's better than Gregtech generation in the early game, so I don't know, maybe I will. I'll look into it, I'm not sure yet. Regardless, I'm going to need circuits, so let's just finish off this entire page. While we're at it, I'll just craft the diesel engine, because why not? I'm going to craft the fermenting casket, because why not? It looks like I have to make an actual ethanol bucket, but it has to be ethanol from Create. Luckily it's easy to make. Oh, sad. To finish the quest, I have to make actual crude biodiesel. It's just mixing ethanol, which I just made, and plant oil, which is very easy to make. Now let's get these circuits going. In order to make circuits, I'm going to do quite a bit of microcrafting, which I can alleviate a little bit by using crafting blueprints. These need a painting and a crafting table to make, so I'm going to start off with 8, and these are super cool. I'm going to place them here on this wall, and I can set a recipe in here, like this. Now, let me get some sticky resin and wood planks and show you the magic. If I just come up here and right click, it does the craft. Amazing. That's going to be so helpful for microcrafting. Now this does need a bit of space to get all of these set up, and I would like to not do it here, but I guess it can't be avoided for now. I have found that I need a lot more sticky resin than I thought I did. So I've automated the production of shiitake spores in one large barrel, and I've done that like this. So there's an aqueous accumulator pushing water into the hatch. That gets turned into witch water because there's mycelium spores. That appears in this output hatch, gets sent straight into an input hatch, and once this buffer fills up, it'll start making more shiitake spores. This is the recipe. 95% chance of a shiitake spore. It doesn't consume the input spore, which is nice. So pretty soon I'll start generating these spores. I'm going to put a barrel in front of this output bus, and then we're good to go. Oops. I just made a brown mushroom block. Uh-oh. There is a recipe conflict. Unlucky. And here is the very first circuit. And I'm going to use the circuit to make an energy converter. Short while later, I've got 16 basic electronic circuits. To continue from here, I get to make all of the LV parts, so the motors, the pistons, the robot arms, conveyor modules, and pumps. The very first machine I want to make is, as always, the wire mill. Usually the wire mill is one of the best multis to make first, because before you have machines, wire costs you a whole plate, and plates cost you 2 ingots. With the wire mill, I get 2 wire for 1 ingot, so that's 4 times as good as what it was before. Now I do have create stuff here, so this is kind of equivalent to having a bending machine, so it's 1-to-1 ingots to plates, which means the wire mill no longer saves 4 times the materials, it only saves 2 times the materials, which is still good, so I'm still going to start with the wire mill. After that, I will make an assembler, and then an energy hatch. Once I have an energy hatch, we'll talk about what I want to do next. One more thing to consider before making these machines is powering them. Now there are many options. A pretty simple one I could do right now is a combustion gen from Gregtech, because I can burn ethanol in here for power, and ethanol is very easy for me to make in this fermenting casket. So that's one early option, but the quest page here seems to imply that the thermal dynamos are better in the early game. So maybe I'll make a Stirling dynamo and see how that goes. This is going to not create EU though, it's going to create RF, so I need the converter which I made earlier to convert it into EU so I can use it with Gregtech machines. But this is just to get started, whichever one I choose. I might do both, I don't know. My real power source in LV and maybe even in MV and beyond potentially is kind of going to be with create again. So there are these carbon brushes and generator coils, which basically uses induction to create electricity. We have rotation from our steam turbine or diesel engine or whatever. Rotating some metal in a magnetic field means there's a changing magnetic flux, which makes an electric field, and that is electricity. Good old Maxwell. Hey, wait. Maxwell? Anyway, this generates electricity, but I'm not exactly sure how to convert it from this weird create electricity into RF or into EU, so I'll have to look into that. But I know it's possible, and this seems really cool. Machines! Oh yes, now I'm back in my element. So what I have here is a 1 amp LV energy converter. This is the one I made for the quest. When you place it down, it initially is in conversion from RF or FE into EU, which is exactly what we want. If you want to convert from EU to RF or FE, then you just need to hit this with the soft mallet, which I'm not going to do because that's not what I want. Anyway, the one side that looks different from the others is the output, and that's where I've placed my 1x soul-infused wires, which are superconductors, and they lead to my wire mill and my assembler. Each Stirling dynamo makes 128 RF per tick with no upgrades installed, so you can get more out of this. And in this mod pack, the conversion from RF to EU is 4-to-1, so it's kind of like a voltage tier. So this is 32 EU per tick for each dynamo. That is very good, because I would have had to make 4 combustion gens for the same output. And these Stirling dynamos are cheap. They are super cheap. It's just iron and a bit of steel, basically, and some gold and redstone and a bunch of other things. But I just need to feed it something to burn, and I'm gonna get some charcoal. I made this tank, by the way. And as you can see on the tooltip on the top, these two are now powered. In fact, I am massively oversaturating this energy converter, because I only need 1 Stirling dynamo to get this to full capacity. If you're new to Gregtech, or if you don't know how the electricity system works, I believe this is the same mechanics as in GT5U, which is what GTNH uses. So amps work on a request-based system. Each machine has an internal buffer, and it consumes energy from that buffer to do its crafts. Once the buffer is empty enough that it can accept a full packet of EU, in this case 32 EU in a packet because it's LV, then it will request an amp. And then this energy converter will send the EU from here to here, or whatever. And it'll consume it from its own internal buffer, and then it will request energy from one of the dynamos around it. Well, that may not be true. The dynamos might be pushing energy. I don't know how that works. But the Gregtech part, it's all request-based. Now this means, if I'm doing recipes that don't need a full amp, I can use 1 amp to power multiple machines. That's just a little fun fact that might be useful to you if you're spamming a bunch of machines. Anyway, now I want to make myself an LV energy hatch. This should be pretty easy now. It needs cables, it needs LV machine hull, and it needs low voltage coils, and these need magnetic iron rods and fine steel wire. The fine steel wire is made in a wire mill from steel, obviously. So it should be pretty easy to do. Once I have that, I gain access to quite a few very nice things. First of all, the electric blast furnace, so I can make aluminium and I can make steel quicker. The mechanical sieve, which lets me sieve my stuff automatically. Super nice. Needs a bunch of other stuff, but I don't think any of this is difficult to get because it's all treated wood. This says treated wood as one word. It should be 2 words. Anyway, this is pretty nice. I'm probably going to make 1 sieve for each type of input material. So 1 for sand, 1 for crushed blackstone, 1 for gravel, and 1 for dust. And the one thing that I've been looking forward to the most, the void extractor. I need to make a mixer and some lubricant first, which also means I need to make a brewery. But the void extractor, finally, allows me to get actual coal. And I have been waiting for this so I can get my hands on some bit so I can actually build my base. This is just the floor. I'm not gonna lawn base. No, not here. That's very bad for HamCorp's stock price. So I'm gonna get to work. I think my first priority will be the mechanical sieve and then the void extractor. Now I'm kind of struggling to make charcoal fast enough, so I'm gonna try something that is not mentioned in the quest book at all. The charcoal pile igniter. This is a weird looking thing. And to be honest, I've never used it before, so this is an experiment for me too. The structure is a 3x3 of bricks, some burnable logs in 3 layers, surround it with dirt, and igniter in the center. And then I think I just ignite this. And in 127 seconds, this thing should be full of charcoal. I just need this to help my steel along, because charcoal is the problem now, not wrought iron anymore. Speaking of wrought iron, I make it a lot faster in the steam thing now because I've sped this up. I brought a whole gearbox connection from underneath. So there's a whole line that just leads all the way back to the steam engine. And that's how this works. 2 minutes later. Oh yeah. Wait, this is brittle charcoal. Ooh, this isn't charcoal blocks. Okay, let's see. It's 2 charcoal each. Man. Well, it's better charcoal per wood, so there's that at least. I think it might still be faster than that. I don't know, not sure. So I'm gonna do this a little bit just to help things along, and I'll be back with my energy hatches. And the sieves are done. I also made all of the blocks I need for the multis. It was mostly wood, but surprisingly quite a bit of brass as well. Anyway, let's set this up now. Glorious. I got my inputs here in the form of drawers. I'm just going to ship over some inputs for now. Each thing is powered with a dedicated energy converter and a dedicated Stirling dynamo. Ideally, I set up a little pipe system supplying charcoal. And the outputs here, some of these sifters have 2 output buses and some of them have only 1. Specifically, the dust and the crushed blackstone ones only have 1 output bus because they only need 1 output bus because they have 4 outputs. But the sand and the gravel have 5 outputs. So I actually do need 2 buses. But hey, this is cool. What I would like to do with these buses though is set up like a storage controller, I think it's called. Yeah, this thing. This is basically a drawer controller from older versions of modded Minecraft, but it's called a storage controller because I don't know why. That way I can feed everything into a bunch of drawers and then I have raw ore automated. Well, semi-automated. This also is very much a lawn-based temporary location. This is not going to stay here. The reason I put it here is because I don't know where I want to put it yet, because I need to do the whole diesel thing first, because that's going to be my power. Once I have that set up, and that's likely going to be right here, then I can plan all the other parts of my base and set up like actual genuine ore processing. Starting with the crushing wheels, sending everything to the sifters, and then sending the raw ores into ore processing or into primitive, or not primitive, the steam ore factory. I think this ore processing is faster, to be honest, and maybe just a bit better. Definitely easier to scale, much cheaper. And once I have that, then I'll have dust showing up at the end, and then we're good. I'm kind of debating now whether I should start working on that first or if I should do the void extractor. I think I want to do the void extractor because I'm going to need so much coal and it's not that fast. It's 32 seconds for a 40% chance of 2 raw coal. Anyway, the void extractor is just a bunch more steel. That's fine. The controller is probably the most expensive part. Not even that expensive, to be honest. It just needs a bunch of soul-infused wire and some LV parts. It's nothing crazy. But the tough part about the void extractor is I'm going to need drilling fluid. And drilling fluid is made in a mixer, combining stone dust, water, and lubricant. So it's easy. It's just I need to get lubricant and stone dust. And a mixer, of course. Lubricant is pretty easy to make in a brewery. There's also the distillery, but the brewery is much, much faster. At the low cost of redstone and either seed oil or creosote, I'm probably going to use the creosote, I can make tons and tons of lubricant. And the stone dust is pretty chill too. The only thing is it needs to be done in a macerator, so I need to make that as well. And all of this means I need power, so I'm now going to change my mind and I'm going to say I'm going to do diesel first. So let's set up the diesel power. And here is the diesel setup. It's been divided into 3 lanes: production, consumption, and conversion, I guess. Over here in the production area, this is where I make my diesel, and it goes from right to left. So the source is a large farm making rice. That's all it makes. So I get rice panicles and I get rice as rice. These brass tunnels split the two, which is output onto the depot and merged back into the rice line. From the rice line, we take rice into this fermenter, where it's converted into ethanol and biochaff, which is a byproduct. The ethanol is transported through the pipe to the mixer. Rice also goes to this mechanical press facing a basin where the output has been filtered to plant oil because otherwise it makes bags of rice. And the plant oil is also transported through a pipe to the mixer. And finally, this mixer mixes the ethanol with the plant oil to make crude biodiesel, which is stored in this big tank. So that's the whole production line. The bottleneck seems to be the fermenting, so I probably need to make more of those, but that's fine. From there, the crude biodiesel is transported through the pipe to the large diesel generators. These consume the diesel and start to rotate the rod in the middle. This rotation is routed around to this thing, the actual generator. It spins the mass in the middle, which is surrounded by a bunch of magnets, and this generates electricity. This is fluctuated magnetite, which needed me to make a polarizer, and also I made some other machines like the lathe and the bending machine. But this is the second best magnet that I can make. The next one is neodymium, and it's quite a bit better, but I don't know if it's really going to be useful because it's going to be a little bit before I can use that. Anyway, here at the carbon brushes, we can actually take power out. I think this is just FE, so this is 4.3k FE per tick, which is about 2 amps of HV Gregtech power. So that's pretty nice. That is 32 amps of LV. That should be pretty good for now. And it's very easy to make more of these. These are not that expensive. The fluctuated magnetite is mildly annoying to make because I need actual magnetite dust, but I can get that. It's just a matter of waiting. So cool. Right now I'm just burning fuel for no benefit because I'm not storing this power. This is already capped. I do need to make some optimizations here anyway. I know that I'm net negative on biodiesel at the moment, so I need to make more fermenting caskets. But this is fun to set up. This is so cool. It was a lot of effort though. A lot of effort. A lot of learning how different things work as well. And also using belts for transporting rotation is kind of cool. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. And now to continue, I need to make a mixer. I need to make a brewery. I need to make lubricant. And I need to make drilling fluid, which also means I need to make a macerator. And then a void extractor, which gets me coal, which lets me actually build my base instead of having this semi-spaghetti mess that I have right now. Oh, by the way, I don't think I showed this, but this is super nice. Having treated planks on a crafting blueprint is the best thing in the world, because doing this recipe in a crafting table sucks. Same thing with converting buckets of resin into raw rubber. This is so much nicer. Some other stuff I want to do in the very, very near future is start using laser IO, which has been recommended many times. This is going to be one of the ways I transfer power around the base in the early game. And I also need to make a colossal chest along with Tom's simple storage mod, which is kind of like AE2 before AE2. The only reason I've put those two things off this long is because everything here, except maybe the diesel setup, is not in its final position. I have some pretty big plans for how to organize this place, and this is not it. So, next time, Void Extractor. Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp Training Manual. In the next episode, we will set up the Void Extractor to generate some resources, finally build some buildings, or at least frames for buildings, and centralize our storage with toms and a colossal chest. Perhaps we will also craft an EBF. Did you know? Employees who perform poorly are sent to work on the crude biodiesel production line? See you next time.